Okay, well, hello everyone and welcome to our very first YP panel of 2021. I'm Tara Bokowski and I'm currently a board member in charge of the young professionals. So I wanted to introduce my three panelists, and the topic today is actually going to be more so what else is out there within the finance and banking world, and no better than my three panelists here that have a lot of experience and are also here to really field any questions for you all. If we could all introduce ourselves with just name, the company you're with, or the company title for you, Todd, as well as really what does the banking and finance industry mean to you, just so we can give our panel, our attendees a perspective of where you fit in the industry. So John, let's start with you.
Sure, good afternoon. I'm John Martyr. I actually have retired after a 42-year career in commercial banking, that's middle market commercial banking. And I retired from First Bank in 2019. Middle market, commercial middle market really means working with companies from 20 million in revenues to 200 million in revenues, with loan sizes from 2 to 30 million typically. And I had a portfolio with First Bank of a combined loan and deposit portfolio of about 400 million. During that time, I really felt that RMA was a great industry group to connect with. And so I've been on the board for about 5 or 6 years, and then current president for the RMA Orange County. For me, banking is, when you say banking finance, that's where I come from. So that's kind of what it means, but it's a pretty big word. Banking is commercial middle market, which is what I did. It's SBA, it's real estate finance, it's syndicated loans, it's retail, it's mortgage. So, it's a pretty big word, and we'll unpack that a little bit more, as we go through today.
Thank you, John. What about you, Danny? Give us a little intro on what the industry means to you.
Well, Danny Reddington Smithson, Executive Vice President with Bank of Southern California. And like John, I've been in banking for quite some time. I'm just over 30 years, and 24 of that I've spent here in the city of Irvine, working basically for two banks that grew through acquisition. And I think what banking means to me is helping people. It means community. It means serving. I feel like people bank with a banker more so than they bank with a bank. I think you have to be at a really great bank. I think your banker needs to understand what your needs are. We need to be able to handle the credit side. And I feel like it's just something you build on depending on who you're talking with. But I mean, banking's an exciting field to be in. I feel like we're in unprecedented times now, which I'm sure we'll touch on in a little bit. But I feel like what it means to me is serving and meeting people and just really enjoying what I do.
Thank you, Danny. And Todd.
Yes, Todd Stickler. Good afternoon. I'm CEO of LendSpark Corporation. We are a commercial finance company that's non-bank, but we rely and work closely with banks. We provide equipment financing, term loans, real estate finance to various size businesses. And to me, the banking and finance industry is obviously a very generalized term, but it's what makes us go and grow. I think that what makes our economy and what our businesses thrive and survive. So to me, it's the fuel, so to speak, in the gas tank for the different businesses we all work with.
Thank you for that. So Danny, I'm going to start off with you. What is something that really surprised you about the industry?
Well, I think what I would say was the lack of female representation in the executive levels of banking. I mean, when I started my career, I started as a teller, and I remember distinctly knowing that while I love to spend money, I was never going to count it. and that I really wanted to be involved in the front end of relationships and dealing with people. And while I feel like I've just progressed tremendously in my career, I think it's something other people need to think about because, you know, women bring such a unique skill set to banking. And I would say that would be it. I mean, I think we're seeing more women on the boards and a lot more diversity and inclusion in the last couple of years than we've ever seen. But I do think we have some work ahead of us.
Mm-hmm. Good. And so, Todd, what about you? Anything that surprised you in particular?
Yeah, I came into it from a little different perspective. I came from a business ownership. So I ran companies, and, you know, even from that chair, I would just think about the banks, right? Who my banking banker was, where I was getting my lines of credit. And what's been fascinating to learn is all the different facets and businesses that are related to the banking and financing industry. It's not just the bank. There's factoring companies, equipment financing companies, et cetera, that really play a vital part within the industry.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll just dovetail onto both of those comments that, you know, this thing that surprised me over the years when I first joined banking out of college, you know, the career paths weren't, you know, quite as diverse as they are today. There are a lot of different things you can do in banking. Some of it's created, you know, been created by mergers and acquisitions of different types of business. So you can literally be a banker and be a wealth manager. You can be a banker and be a construction lender. You can be a banker and be somebody in a branch or what have you. So there's really a lot of different career paths inside of the big term called banking.
No, and I would agree. I think the key is to know what you're passionate about. If you like to be a number cruncher, don't want to be a relationship manager where you have to get out and go out and look for business or cultivate business. So I think really when you think about it, it's just knowing what your skill set, knowing what your passion is, and then pursuing that in the industry.
Mm-hmm. So Todd, you mentioned your background is more as a business owner. So from that lens, what is something you maybe wish you learned on the way that would have better prepared you for being a business owner within this industry?
Maybe for being a business owner, I think, again, there's such a focus immediately on go to your banker and then really understanding what the different banks are looking for in terms of relationships and what are some of the covenant requirements and what are some of the things that your business needs to have in terms of making sure you're presenting yourself in the most appropriate light to the bank. And then outside of that, what are some of the different options? I wish I would have known the multiple different options available that that could have helped me grow when maybe I was on a high growth trajectory, or if we were going through some challenges, whether it be through a pandemic or some downturns in the economy. What are some of the different options that allow the business to sustain, grow, and thrive? And I didn't have that knowledge prior to coming into this space because it was so vast. And Danny touched on a little bit. There are some very good specialties within the banking and finance industry that people gravitate to based upon passion that can be extremely not only rewarding, but helpful to the different sectors that are out there in the marketplace.
Mm-hmm. And then John or Danny, anything that you wish you learned along the way that really got you to that next point in your career that you might have said, hey, that would have been better to know a little sooner?
Yeah, I mean, I'll just for me, you know, it's not just about what you know in terms of your technical skills, which I think was my kind of early on my impression. I came in through the finance side. I was a finance major, finance MBA, and so I was using those finance skills, but really the rest of it is about, you know, being a business person and all the things that you kind of learn along the way about, you know, being a little bit of a salesman, being a little bit of a coach, being a little bit of a, you know, a mentor, being good at time management, you know, all those kind of skill sets that we've come to appreciate as somebody called a business person. But I didn't realize how important those were. Networking. Didn't realize how important those were, until later in my career. And not that it would change my mind, but it just was something that I would have appreciated a little bit more, upfront.
Well, I think what's important to identify right away, and I learned it, it took me a little bit, was to find out who your champion is in that office that you're in. Who's there that has a position that you think that you'd love to have? And then how can I learn what I need to know in order to succeed and get there? So I just felt like back when I started in banking, I will be honest and say that I think some of my best mentors or champions, were men. I mean, they saw the promise in my attitude, my passion and determination, but there were also a lot of remarkable women. And so I feel like what everybody needs to do in banking is to identify with someone in the company and cultivate a relationship so that you have an opportunity to have them be your champion, in the good times and bad. And I think that's critical.
Yeah, and I think to enhance that, it's those connections, right? You're talking about a champion. How are you creating the connections not only within your own bank, but within the clients that you have or the prospects you're looking at? Do you understand what the challenges are that they're facing on a daily basis in terms of being able to assist them? We many times get stuck in the box that we live in within either the bank or the finance industry. We're looking for these people to fit into these criteria. And can you be creative and can you understand, again, where the shoe is rubbing your client's foot, so to speak, and making sure you can assist them in some form or fashion?
Well, and I think that's an important thing to bring up too, because I feel like that we're charged with knowing our customers' business almost better than they do. We need to understand their industry, what the trends are. We need to really know the client, know more than just what they put on paper. And I think that's the key to success, because you can't identify potential partners. I can't refer someone to Todd that I don't know needs his service. So to me, conversation and communication are the keys to every successful relationship I think I've ever built in my career.
So then on that note then, Danny, how do you collaborate with businesses, let's say like Todd's?
Well, I think it's just through getting to know Todd, understanding what is his sweet spot, what are his successes, who has he helped recently, talk to me more about the deal size, and then identifying my clients when I'm on my retention calls, be it through Zoom at this point or just on the phone, but understanding what their needs are and knowing that if I can't provide a service, the best thing I can do is find that great partner to serve my customer, because you really are only as good as your partners. And I think that everyone says that your partners in business make or break your business. So if I can't offer something to someone, then I better sure have a good option or two lined up so that I can continue to build that relationship. Customers never forget that great referral.
Mm-hmm. And what about you, John? When you were still working, how did you utilize companies like Todd's or a network with someone like Todd's company?
Yeah, similar to what Danny was talking about, when you do get a referral or you get a request, you really want to somehow figure it out and help the person out. There's a lot of reasons why it may or may not fit may not fit what you do. It could be too small. It could be too big. It could be in a risk category that didn't make sense. It could be a type of financing that you or your bank, doesn't handle. And so having this network of people like Todd and others to refer to that that can get the job done for them is really critical in being able to say, yes, I've got a solution. Because if you have a solution to when somebody comes to you, then they will come again, or whoever referred them to you will send another one. Oh yeah, John can handle. He'll help get this thing placed or the job done. So it's really great to have partners all along the spectrum of finance.
Mm-hmm. So then, Todd, can you tell me more about the importance from your perspective, the banking relationships that you've created?
Yeah, bankings are paramount, right? I want to make sure that every one of my customers has a banking relationship, and if they don't run, don't walk to get one. They provide the treasury management, the tools necessary to run the business. We provide some additive coverage for them, or in situations where maybe the banks can't provide the necessary financing for a time. And so for me, making sure that not only do different banks know who I am, but to make sure I have a collaborative relationship with the bankers so that they don't feel that there's a competition or I'm going to take them away from their customer. I'm going to be an additive solution to their business. And even more importantly, it's kind of like the old adage in construction. It doesn't really matter what the name of the is on the side of the truck. It's who gets out of the truck that determines how well that project's going to go. So making sure that if Danny or John brings me into a deal, that I can either perform or I can't, and make sure I'm open and honest very clearly about that, because the worst thing would be to let them down, because ultimately it then hurts their customer, and I need to recognize they're the ones with the relationship. There are a few times where banks may be frustrated, or excuse me, clients may be frustrated with some of their banking relationships, where I can then guide them to some people that I've worked with collaboratively, like Danny or John, and help them and enhance their business through a different banking relationship as well.
What I think he's trying to say is that honesty is always the best policy. You know your audience, know what you can and can't do, and don't set yourself up for failure.
Yep.
Yeah. And I think I hear a resounding, it's really creating a network of just good trust and honesty, right? We all work with people we know and like and trust. And that just doesn't go within our own industry. It's expanding out there for our clients too, to really serve them well. So John, I'm curious to know, when you were building your career, what are some things that you thought really propelled you within the industry and really helped you succeed the way you did?
I actually think being an advocate for the client is a critical thing. They don't need a lecture about banking, about banking policies, that kind of thing. And there are a lot of reasons and times that you would need to say no, or we need to wait, or what have you. But being the guy that can get it done for them, or gal that can get it done for them, is really a critical thing. I remember I got when I was a junior lender, I got I'll say coached along by a boss. I had a client that was a good client, and they made a really unusual loan request. I mean, it was just an oddball loan. And I actually went and told the client, I said, we can't really do this loan. It would look bad. And, I forgot specifically what the excuses were. And he called my boss. The client called my boss, and we had a little coaching day. But his point was, this is a great client. You need to be an advocate for this guy. And do you think you'll lose money on the loan? No, the answer was no. We need to do this loan for this good client. And so that was great that happened early in my career. And I've always kept that in mind. Because they really, the client really wants somebody that can represent them well, and yet at the same time you're playing you also have to represent the bank. So it's a delicate combination, but they don't need a lecture on banking 101 if they're a client. They just need somebody to get it done. So that's how I think I built my business.
Well, I don't think there's anything wrong with asking for help from someone that you're watching in the company that's bringing in a lot of opportunities. I mean, go be an audience on one of their appointments. But I also feel like people want to be treated well. I think what makes me really successful is treating my clients like their family. I mean, treating them like I would want to be treated, with respect, and just doing what you say you're going to do. I mean, that's the key.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Todd? What do you think was one of the keys that made you successful in your business ownership?
Yeah, along the same lines of what was just mentioned, thinking about your clients more just what can I sell them, but what can I be offering to them and assisting them. Some of the most successful people in this industry become that partner to their clients. If they're providing banking and finance to them, but they may also be learning about, let's say, employee retention credits with the CARES Act, and bringing somebody that they've learned that may be able to assist them in identifying, is that going to benefit your business, maybe get some more cash in your business's pocket. That's not something that the banker is going to earn, or me as a partner is going to earn money off. But what I'm doing is enhancing that relationship with my customer, making sure that I'm there for them, not just to sell them something or make some money off of them, but to really help them grow and be successful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good. So I really want to talk about future generations here. We hear always millennials, Gen Zs. So Todd, tell me from your perspective, what does it mean to build relationships?
I have people that are in their mid-20s working for me, and some of the most successful ones are the ones that take the time on the phone in these pandemic times to get to know their customer, to ask questions. Tell me about your business. What makes you successful? What are your struggles? Tell me a little bit about yourself. Explain to them who they are. Get personal with them. Build that rapport with somebody on the phone, and then translate that into the different technology that's available, whether it be a text or emails or what have you. Those are the people that I'm seeing are being the most successful, rather than trying to jump into the job, pick up the phone, start making the calls, start just doing the repetitive stuff that they think they're doing to enhance their numbers or to get certain scorecards met. The people that are really focused on developing that rapport are not only exceeding their goals, but they're being very successful because they're building that rapport with the customer.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'd add on to that people want to do business with people they like. And I feel like what's missing out there and what I see is just the lack of the phone call, reaching out and talking with the customer. Even through the COVID times, I've still dropped in and saw clients. If they weren't there, I left a handwritten note. Those things mean a lot, because at the end of the day, everybody's time is so valuable. And I feel like picking up the phone is far more effective, even if you have to leave one or more messages, than to send an email. I feel like everyone thinks it's easier to do the email, and that type of communication, I think, falls kind of flat. I mean, you can put very nice words in an email as a follow-up, but I think if you want an opportunity, I feel like you're going to have to figure out another way to go about getting it other than by, doing an email. I think you're going to have a partner or someone that knows the client that's going to call them and put in a good word for you verbally, or send a good recommendation email. But I just feel like people aren't talking enough. And I know that my clients, they expect to hear from me, and I want to be out in front of them. I still have clients that are going out to lunch. I'm still getting a lot of great referrals. But I think a lot of the younger bankers, they find it's easier just to shoot an email. And I would caution that that's not the best way to grow your business.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would even add to what Danny said, to those prospective candidates trying to get positions within the banking and finance industry. Think about how we are trying to connect to our customers in the same way we're wanting to see that connection to us from potential recruits and potential candidates. Are you just emailing me? Did you call and follow up with me? Are you asking, how are things going with your search? Where do I fit? What can I be doing differently? Or is there someone in your network on LinkedIn that knows who I am that can connect with me? Those are all different ways that allow me to see you really actually care about what you're looking for. It's just not another resume you're throwing out there. And you transition that into, that's how you treat your customers, right? I'm not just emailing you because, hey, do you have something you need for me today? It's really, how are things going? Connecting on the phone in the different ways of, like Danny said, dropping in, sending a gift, sending a letter. not too many people get mail anymore that's actually meaningful to them. So it's nice to pick up and open something. And to remember and to remind yourself, every one of our customers is probably getting hit on 10 times a day for some kind of banking or financing. So how are you distinguishing yourself so that they know to call Todd or Danny or John?
And just to add,
Oh, go ahead, John.
well, and just to add, you know, in terms of developing relationships in your referral network, you know, your referral network is really an important part of what you do, and where a fair amount of your business is going to come from. And so when you need to kind of keep them in mind. And one of the things that's worked well, probably for everyone on the phone, you know, at one point in the past, is just you know, sending an article, forwarding an email that, you know, just thinking about you saw this about your industry, or saw this about, you know, some particular thing that, you know, they'd be interested in, inviting them to an RMA event, inviting them to an event so that, you know, they feel special. You know, making an introduction. Oftentimes these aren't direct pieces of business that, but during those times where you don't have that opportunity to, you know, to send them, you know, a loan that is suitable for them, more suitable for them than it is for you. You know, you're keeping in touch. You're making an introduction is another thing. People like to meet people because they're, you know, an introduction to a vendor or to a another party that could someday be helpful and add to your network. So those kinds of things are really important, and kind of just generally, as we talked a little bit about, staying in touch.
Mm-hmm. So Danny, I'll field this one to you then. So if you're in positions of hiring, what do you look for in an applicant then? What makes someone stand out?
Well, you know something, I want to see an individual that has fire in their belly. I want to see someone that wants to grow. I want to see someone that's a really great listener, because I know that through my years of banking that I think listening skills have to be second to none. You have got to be able to ask the right questions and listen. And I find in interviews, I might lead in with a question, but then I really want to sit and listen to the individual. But I think that in order to get that position, you ought to be researching it, look at other people in the industries to see who else has those roles. You know, LinkedIn is a valuable resource to find other people in positions that you would like to have. And then I would say try and connect with them just for some coaching and mentoring. But definitely know a lot about the company that you want to go and talk to about for an opportunity for a job. And then, you know, and then if you don't get the job, ask, you know, call them up and ask them what you could have done differently, or, you know, where would you see them going in the future, and maybe get some guidance from them. Because I've met people that I've actually really liked, and they might not have been right for the job, but I did want to help them in some way. So I think just honest, open communication.
Mm-hmm. Todd, what about you then? You said you have some amazing 20-somethings working for you. What made them stand out? What made you decide, you know what, I want to hire this type of applicant?
Yeah, we're a type of business where you don't go to school to learn it. It's kind of learning on the job. So I'm really looking for somebody who wants to learn, who wants to grow, who's not just here to check in at 8 and leave at 4:59, and really demonstrates that to us, and really wants to. It's not a humility thing as much as it's like, I want to learn and be successful and know what it takes. So asking the right questions during the interview, what is it going to take for me to be successful? Because if it's not a good fit, you're doing yourself a disservice and the company a disservice if you just get the job, so to speak. So really understanding what it's going to take to be successful. And then once you get in, obviously having all the basic backgrounds of knowing certain types of technology. You're not going to know everything that we use. You're going to have to learn those things, but having the basics. And then we've already heard from Danny, you know, somebody who listens, somebody who asks questions, somebody who wants to connect. To me, those are paramount because we're in a people business. We may be selling certain types of products that are financed, but we're in a people business and we're there to help our customers.
And I would just add, you know, a lot of the folks that are listening today aren't in the industry, and certainly as when we're hiring people, we're looking for people that can get the job done. And oftentimes with this particular group, you know, they don't have maybe the experience inside the industry, so it really underscores some of the things that that Danny and Todd have talked about. Especially I think the research, you know, especially if you're going into an interview, the research, the kind of understanding of what it's going to take them to make the department or the bank successful, I think is really just a great insight, and really helpful in saying, yeah, I really like this person, and know that if they came in, they know where we're going. So, but research is kind of key, especially if you're not in the industry already.
Well, and if I can add, I would like to say that a couple of my best employees, they were just amazing clay. I mean, they had all the skill sets we were looking for, and we knew that we were going to put some time and energy into them. But I mean, one of them still works for me today at 14 years, and the other one is very successful in her role. But neither of them came from banking. They were actually in different industries. So just taking the time to get to know that individual sitting in front of you, that the individual sitting in front of you, I mean, they need to have the willingness and desire to possibly do a different position than they're interviewing for, because that could be the next step in their career with that company.
Mm-hmm. So with that being said then, you know, from the lens of maybe these viewers aren't already in the industry, Todd, what's maybe a piece of advice about breaking into the industry?
Again, I think that you probably want to know the different, at least some basic facets of the industry. Do you want to go into banking, which has its own kind of lane, so to speak? Do you want to go into more of a specialty finance type of company? Do you want to go into more of a sales position or underwriting? So kind of having an idea of where your skill set, your personality may fit, I think is going to be very beneficial for you, so that you can at least talk towards how you're going to potentially be able to be successful in that role. I think that there are, you know, so many people want to just find a job, but I think really understanding what that job is and how you fit to it is very helpful for somebody like me who's hiring. Because again, we're going to spend a lot of time, energy, effort, and money to train. We want to make sure it's a good fit, because it doesn't help us or them going forward.
I agree. I mean, if you can sell ice to Eskimos, you definitely don't want to be in the accounting department or doing credit analysis for the bank. So you have to understand what your skill set is as well. You know, that would be like me saying, oh yeah, I just want to work in the back office. And I don't know, I think everybody has to be true to themselves. You know, you're going to have to put yourself out there no matter what, but put yourself out there in a way that, number one, makes you comfortable, and two, something you can get excited about. Because, you know, information can be taught, right? We can all learn about a company, but if you don't have a passion to sell, you're not going to do well in that position. But, you know, alternatively, if you want to get out and do credit, if you want to be a part of a credit process, then you need to really be more analytically driven. And there are those positions that are combinations, but never forget what you love and what you're best at and what you're most passionate about, because that's always going to, number one, come through in an interview, and number two, it's going to serve you best.
I might also just suggest that, you know, that candidates would be aware of the size of the institution that they get into. You got the large institutions like a Bank of America or what have you. Then you've got the medium-sized banks, and then you have a small bank like Danny's bank. Each one of them has pluses and minuses. A large bank, for instance, has good training and lots of opportunities to go into different departments, but it's a pretty big organization. You don't maybe have that personal feel. You know, a medium-sized bank, you better be sure you kind of get into the right general area early on, because they're going to be counting on you, and you know the ability to transfer somewhere else may or may not be, you know, or into something completely different may or may not be there. And then small bank, you're going to have to be somewhat entrepreneurial, I think. So if you don't like that particular aspect of it, those generally aren't the kind of people in the jobs that we've talked about earlier. But if you sort of don't like that, if you'd rather be like the finance guy in the credit analyst area, then you know maybe that might not be for you, because they're going to be asking you to do a whole bunch of different things. So just be really aware of the size of the organization. I think that could be helpful.
Yeah, and in addition to size,
that really quick I just feel like if you're going to work in a smaller institution, you know, I mean, my bank is just under 2 billion at the moment, and I have worked in a very large organization. I mean, I worked for California Bank and Trust. I've also worked for Pacific Western Bank, and I don't know. I feel like when you're in a small bank, you really have more components to your position. You do get to feel more entrepreneurial. Your problem solving is a little different. And I know that I've heard throughout my career that, you know, anyone can be a big bank banker, but it really takes a really definite dynamic skill set to be in a small bank, because there's just so many different hats that you wear. And I don't know, I'm always driven to that more dynamic environment versus being in a very big bank where you're really doing one job. But I mean, it's not for everybody.
Yeah, and I would say, coming from a non-bank finance company, also understand if you fit well within a organization that has regulations and certain types of things that they're going to have to monitor and deal with. Some find that restrictive, some find that's a good fit, and I think it's important to know that. Especially if you come to a company like mine, I need people that are entrepreneurial. I need people that are going to fail and look up and say, hey, I messed up. What can I do to fix this? Or even say, if they come in and they're hired as a salesperson, but maybe they find that they're more successful on a credit side, to be able to openly discuss those things so that they can move to the right position. Because what we're looking for, good, really solid employees are hard to find. And we will find a role for you if you're the right person. And that's important to also remember, is just that communication, understanding who you are, understanding what the needs are, voicing that with the people that you report to is paramount.
Mm-hmm. So we really emphasize the importance of building relationships, creating that network. So John, I'll field this to you first, is how did you utilize your own network to get to where you were?
How would somebody utilize their own network?
You personally.
Oh, me personally. Yeah. You know, I think it's just making the effort to have a diverse network. You know, I think you expand the network through you have your basic network of, you know, family, friends, neighbors, that kind of a thing, and then I think it's really important in the business world to expand it into business oriented networking groups, such as the Chamber of Commerce or various networking groups, alumni associations, that kind of a thing, and then you really need to spend some time with it. There's a guy that I've known for a long time that literally does about 200 plus evening events each year, which are evening networking, mixers, you know, variety of different types of things. So it's a pretty big dedication to that. And, so I think the more you work at it, the results definitely will come. So that's really how, just keep working at it, and you never know where the next piece of business is coming from. So casting a wide net was something that worked for me. I do know that people that have cast a little bit narrower net have also been successful. So anyway, that you just need to, you need to be out there.
I'll tag on to that. I think you have to have a passion to serve, and I think you need to find that passion, find that organization. I've served on some really wonderful boards that were out in our community, because really at the end of the day, I feel like I'm kind of that servant leader as well. I want to get out and help organizations grow, and I feel like I've made tremendous connections through the board members of some of these organizations. I feel like it also helps you grow your network. It tells your community more about who you are. I'm very passionate about helping women grow in their careers, and taking on the Women of Influence chair role with the Irvine Chamber for 4 years was something that I feel like really helped define kind of something that was important to me, but yet helped me learn and meet a lot of individuals. And obviously, being the Women in Banking chair for the risk management group here for Orange County is important, because I feel like we can all bring something to the table, and it does help grow your network. I get tremendous referrals just from the clients and the individuals I know. I invite them to come to the fundraisers. I mean, there's something for everybody. I think it's just taking the time and exploring it and learning about them so that you can make those connections.
Yeah, and lastly, I would use the word spheres of influence. I know everyone talks about it, but I, in my business, I'm working with hedge funds that provide us capital and backing. I'm working with banks. I'm working with end customers, and I find success by having different people in different industries that have connections into the ultimate place that I need to get to, which is either the business owner or the capital people. So. Some of my most successful influencers are money managers, or they could be groups like Entrepreneurial Organization or Vistage or some other places where people have already connections in there, and then they know who I am and they can bring me and introduce. And I would say that's even the people that are listening to us. Find those spheres of influence. We get people that will say, hey, I know somebody who's looking to break into your industry, Todd. They're great people. Can you talk to them? And then immediately I can learn about them without having to post a job. And I'm finding a lot of people in my industry aren't even posting jobs because they're wanting to find it in different routes. So leveraging that network, that sphere of influence to get you into where you want to go is almost more important than looking for job postings, at least for me.
Mm.
Well, and to that point too, I think we all need to remember that our clients are typically our best referral sources. Your happy clients are the ones that are going to refer you their happy clients or contacts. And obviously CPA firms, other resources, insurance brokers, but centers of influence are critical to everybody's success. And I feel like you need to build them early, keep them strong, and communicate frequently.
Well, that was really great, everybody. We do have some questions that came through, but I do like to end with a few rapid fire questions. So the first question is, first word that comes to mind when you think of finance and banking? John.
Man, it's ever changing. It's a hyphenated word.
Okay. Danny?
Rewarding. John, you used 2 words.
It was hyphenated. It was hyphenated.
Rule breakers. And Todd?
Exciting.
Okay. Dream dinner guest. Danny?
Oh, Kevin Costner for sure.
Todd?
It would be great to do Bill Gates.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd probably do Elon Musk.
There we go. One takeaway from 2020. John.
Oh boy. Be ready to change. Be ready to change and adapt to change.
Danny, I see you're about to say something.
Oh no, I'm just pondering that one. You know, honestly, I feel like be ready for anything. I really do feel that's it. I mean, I think what we've seen has been unprecedented. I certainly wasn't prepared for the need to explore this deep into technology. I've always been one that would rather talk to 500 people in person than to get on a Zoom call. But I feel like we have to put that, we have to get outside ourselves and stay relevant. And I think that's really important. Stay relevant, stay in the moment. Every day, wake up and think how you can serve and do better and who you can help today. And just stay positive.
And Todd, what's your 2020 takeaway?
My one word would be overcome. I think you can use fear to either bind you or to expand. And I think that was the thing that I saw most in 2020 is the companies that didn't get stuck in the fear mode, they immediately started looking for opportunities. And there are many, many companies that had some of their best years in 2020. Obviously, there's many people that struggled, but the people that could, adapt, overcome, don't let the fear drive them, were the ones that I saw that were very successful.
Okay, and one word, only one, to describe the outlook you have for 2021. We'll start with you, Todd.
Cautious.
Okay. Danny?
Exciting.
And John?
I'm optimistic.
Perfect. Thank you all. So let me ask you a few of the questions that came through. Danny, this one specifically for you is what would you recommend to young women who are looking to break into the industry, considering it is mostly male dominated?
Well, again, I think the most important thing to do is to get an introduction to someone that you know in banking that's in a female-oriented position. Know what you'd like to do. Ask for referrals. I think getting involved in the young professionals group like RMA, also wanting to attend some of the RMA women in banking groups, and then your chambers of commerce, because I feel like it can be easy, but I think you still kind of need to know somebody. I don't know what it's like to have to apply for a position. I've always been fortunate enough to have someone come to me. But I know that, you don't always get that interview. So figure out, if you do get the interview, what are you going to try and accomplish? How are you going to be unforgettable? And I think that's one word I would always use is be unforgettable.
Can I add to that, Tara?
Of course.
Yeah, I have twin daughters, and what I would tell you is it really doesn't matter. In my industry, some of the most successful people are female. I don't see it as much male dominated in the specialty world. And I really think that it's less on gender and again, more on what is it, do you understand what it is that I do and what your skill sets are? Are you willing to learn? Are you willing to listen? And are you willing to be that sponge that we can invest in? To me, those are the skill sets I'm looking for rather than the gender side. Personally.
I'd love to add something too, Tara, because the process of getting a job and applying for it and getting your resume out has really changed a lot. It's all internet based. It's all keyword search. It's Indeed. It's, all these different things. You've got to figure out a way to get around that because the best jobs really, frankly, aren't posted, as we talked about before. And you don't let the process, hold you down. You've got to figure out a way on some of the things we've already talked about, just of getting around. You have to play that game a little bit too, and you have to be out there and let the internet do its thing, but don't rely on that to get you to your dream job.
And two, I think it is somewhat who you know. And I would say that if there was a bank that I wanted to work for, I would certainly find a way to walk in there with my resume and introduce myself and say hello, because you never know who's going to be there. And another thing is you just don't have a second chance to make a first impression. So think about that first impression, think about what you're trying to accomplish, and then have a line. You know, that old elevator speech, it still goes a really long way.
It does. So this went to all of our panelists then, and it's a good segue. What would your advice or recommendation be to students or recent graduates who are applying and just aren't landing anything, and maybe that's due to lack of experience? So any take on that?
Yeah, I'll jump in there. For me, I'd be somebody who's willing to talk to them. You know, if you can find somebody in a position that's willing to sit down and talk with them, learn about them, I may know somebody that could be a good fit for them. Maybe they're a good fit for me. If you approach it from a, hey, I'd love to learn from you, I'm open in ears, and I know a lot of people are like that. And then there may be ways that I can take your resume and send it out in a mass email to multiple different people saying, hey, here's somebody that seems to be looking, maybe a great fit. What do you think? And so, you know, don't hesitate to pick up the phone or send an email and really just say, hey, I'm looking for some advice. I think a lot of people feel that's a vulnerability, but to me, it makes me want to help them be successful.
Yeah, I agree. And you know, the thing is I think, you know, if you've done the hard work to get the education, you know, I mean, I have tremendous respect for the discipline it takes as a banker. So I feel like, I mean, that's the key is getting in and talking about that and not losing focus of what you really want to accomplish. But we're all here. I love helping people in any way that I can to be successful. And so really just finding that person, that coach, that mentor, I think is critical to you if you're looking for a position. But do try and find it in an industry that is attractive to you.
Mm-hmm. I would echo and add my third offer of being an advisor to Dan and Todd. And, you know, we're all available on LinkedIn if you wanted to ping us on LinkedIn. But, you know, the other people that can really be helpful, I think are, you know, your alumni groups. You have something in common there. Your churches, you know, people that you know through your church. Friends of your parents, you know, who likes to talk to them. But I mean, they're the ones that are in business. They're farther along. You know, there's just a variety of people. A warm lead into something is really worth a lot. And so just keep working it. You know, somebody knows somebody that knows somebody, and that could be a very good introduction.
Mm-hmm. I might even add on this. There was an amazing book that I always recommend people in their 20-somethings to read, and it's called The Defining Decade. And it talks about the power of weak ties in the sense of go and ask someone for that informational interview. You're going to be surprised at how people really do want to help, and they want to help people succeed. And that was one of the best pieces of advice that I ever read in my early 20s. Because I'm not scared to ask someone, can I just pick your brain? Can I learn about how you got to where you did? And, you know, any piece of advice you could give me. So really tag teaming on what you've all said is just being open and asking for that help and advice, and maybe not that direct, can I have a job? But, you know, what can I learn from you all? We have another one that came in too. So this individual is asking for guidance from being in the industry in the EU, and they want to further their career in the US. What extra skills might they require? You guys are the experts.
I don't know from the bank. I don't know if they were working in the bank or if they're in finance or underwriting or credit. I don't know what their background is, but maybe knowing what their background is,
Oh, we
I
think we
think
just
we
lost
lost
Todd
Todd.
for a quick second.
Yeah.
Well, what
Also,
about Danny? Yeah.
We know that business in banking might be a little bit different in the EU, but we do know that serving customers and being out there meeting and greeting is probably the same. So I would just say find an institution, because they could have an international banking department that could be something that's very interesting to you and they could utilize your skill set. I think that might be a good start. John, what do you think?
Yeah, and I think possibly there are a number of institutions that are based in the UK that operate in the US. And there's a commonality there. I talked a little bit about that sort of warm introduction. This person that asked that, coming from the EU, wouldn't it be great to start with a bank that maybe is headquartered in the EU, or something like let's say a Bank of the West is part of the BNP Paribas group, which is based in France, something like that. So there's a number. So you would need to research that, and maybe that's that commonality that they're looking for as a start.
We have time. Thank you both. Looks like unfortunately we lost Todd, but we have time for one last question, and this is a fun one that came through actually. It was, what is your first place of travel when we're able to get out of this lockdown?
Well, I hope we're unlocked by September, because I've got a trip to Italy planned. So, yeah. So, and it's been planned for 2 years, and so I'm really hoping that we're out of this lockdown and I can get over there.
And Danny, where are you going?
I've been flying a lot. I just don't let the grass grow under my feet. I've been spending a lot of time in Utah, Colorado, heading out for a ski trip next weekend. But I would say that when I can get on an international flight again, I am heading off to Spain to hang out with my best friends from Scotland that live there, to play some golf and to enjoy the coastline and just reconnect, because, the word no just doesn't work for me, and being told no, you can't leave the country, just makes you want to do it even more, right? So I think everybody's really excited to get back out there and obviously go on a cruise. I'm still game to do another cruise. I think it's a great way to see the world.
Good. And Todd, sorry we lost you for a second. This is our final question, but what is your first place of travel when we're able to again?
Oh, so I haven't been traveling yet, right? Okay.
Well, Danny let us know. She's been going everywhere.
On the record.
I was gonna say, I have a daughter in Alabama and Texas, and I've been up to Idaho. Where would I go? Maybe go to Hawaii without having to get tested and then stay there for 2 weeks.
Yeah, that would be
nice.
Where
are you gonna go, Tara?
My next trip is actually Hawaii. I'm going in April, so I'll report back, Todd, on that whole COVID testing stuff. And if I get stuck there for 2 weeks, you know where to find me.
Aloha.
Well, thank you everyone for hopping on. Please, as John mentioned, if you have any questions, our panelists are open on LinkedIn. So please keep connecting and building that network, and have a great rest of your day, everybody.
Thanks, Tara.
Thank you so much. Have a good afternoon. Bye.
Bye-bye.